Welcome to the Tim Castle Live Show, where we meet courageous people doing inspirational things around the world. All right, I want to welcome you to a series myself and Chris Jarvis, author of Be the Giraffe, have put together for your listening pleasure. And I think there's just so many moments of gold packed into this, moments that will transform you. I've broken them into sessions of 20 minutes so that you can get maximum value. If you're on a walk, on a run, on the way to work, on a commute, on a bus, on a train, on a plane, wherever you are, just take this 20 minutes and absorb these lessons. Be the Giraffe is phenomenal. It's a book that touched my soul, and I believe it will touch yours. It will transform you. It will change how you approach that stress, that overwhelm, and actually just living a better life and being able to do it across all verticals, across wealth, health, fun, happiness. Chris has the Wild Factor. And that's also a tool that you can go to chrisjarvis.me/wild factor to download. So I recommend you do that. I'm really excited to bring to you this series with Chris Jarvis on Be the Giraffe and just let you into our conversations where I've asked Chris some questions that I had on my mind, both about Be the Giraffe, his amazing book, but also just about life in general, because I think that's where the value is. And you can hear this exchange in some of the questions. And I'd also ask you to submit to me the questions that you'd like me to ask Chris in the future, because this is a rolling conversation. Put them in the comments, DM me, DM Chris, and we'll get together and we'll make sure that your questions are aired. This is a very special series coming from me and Chris to you to help you change your life, to transform and to get more out of life, more of the good stuff. So without further ado, welcome to the series. Everyone should go out and get Be the Giraffe because you have some amazing lines in Be the Giraffe that people can you can pick that one line and move, like you say in chapter 9, like on Have a Huge Heart, like add greater weight to the projects that touch our hearts. Like you can use that one line, you can just take that and that helps you make a decision, and then you can use it forever as a way to, is this going to touch my heart? Does it touch my heart? And so the question is, and we can get into your amazing assessment tool in a minute, because I mean, okay, let's go into it now. Like the assessment tool, I did it and I thought it was great because, and I know you'll call this out, because it focuses on the specific behaviors and actions you can take or do, or what you're actually doing and how you feel about certain things, rather than just some arbitrary point system. But I was a monkey, a cheeky monkey, and I was like, okay, cool, that's interesting. I'm a monkey. It's all about fun. But I actually scored lowest in career, and I'm like, wow, okay, that's kind of crazy because I feel like I'm doing all right. But then I did again a couple of weeks later, and I became a penguin, and and there was some similarities, like finance, relationships, and fun were kind of up there, and then health and career were not. But like, how can someone who's either a monkey or a penguin, fun and relationships, leverage their strengths, which is those two, to improve holistically? Because I love what you say around, you work with billionaires and millionaires, right? And you spot trends, and you just called that out, and you've just done it on this show, and you spot trends. And one of the trends that you say that you spot is that they're doing something different, or they're doing weird stuff. Like, but like, how can someone who's fun and relationships do weird stuff to get their career and their health or whatever aspects that aren't really, how do they do that?
Yeah, so just a little context on the wild factor is there's a million things we can do. I think the biggest problem in life right now is well, other than the cell phone, but the big part, even in the cell phone, is the FOMO and the fear of missing out. That everybody's so worried about what else is going on, what are other people doing, what's happening, that in the early 90s when I was living in Boston, I worked in the same building where Bain Capital was, and it was a big high-end shopping area. And at the time, the Japanese, the Japanese yen was really strong. So people would just ship their way in, and they'd come in and just buy up Gucci and Louis Vuitton and MS, and they'd just come in and just buy all this stuff, right? And so I saw a lot of the Japanese, and and I also saw that the Japanese were taking pictures of everything, which is a stereotype. And I had this joke that I came up with this little bit that the Japanese it's every other generation of Japanese actually live, and then the next generation just looks at all the pictures from the previous generation because there's no time to do anything else, right? And then the next one lives and takes pictures, and then the next one looks at it. And so where I was going with that is people are so caught up in what everybody else is doing, they're not really living. And so with this wow factor, what I wanted to focus on was people's behaviors, not people's preferences. And I was trying to give people context to make decisions. So don't do what I want to do. Like, who cares what I'm doing? Because it might
Mm,
not be, doesn't, what I'm doing may or may not be beneficial for someone who's listening or watching this, but it should be, the question isn't, could I do what Jarvis did? Could I do what Castle does? The question should be, is there anything that Castle and Jarvis are saying or doing that's going to improve an area of my life that I want to improve? And so, sticking with the whole animal thing, you have the lion and I have the giraffe. The 5 animals in the wow factor are eagle, elephant, monkey, dolphin, penguin. And in that 4-minute quiz, you look at finances, career, health, relationships, and fun. And you do get a grade for each one, but it's not measuring preferences, it's measuring behaviors. Because somebody will say family's the most important. Yeah, but you don't spend any time at home, you're on the road all the time. Like, that's not, then you're not demonstrating that. And so this quiz quickly helped you assess where you are in those areas. And then the beauty of this, sticking with the be the giraffe, to be the lion theme, is rather than say you're a red or a blue or a 7 or a 6 or an E or things that mean nothing, that you
mm,
have to learn them, that
mhm,
the animal gives you the internalization of, when you see penguin, you think fun and communal, and they're kind of fun to
mm,
watch and fun to be around, and certainly not very ferocious. The eagle soars high and accomplishes things and everyone looks up to it. So I tried to tie in what's the best animal for these things. And when you get the score, the takeaway isn't, if you're in, there's a story in the book about Monica with the eagle.
yeah.
And when I thought I had done the best quiz ever, and I was sitting at the table with the CEO and the COO of a company and all the key executives, and everybody's talking about how great the quiz is. And she looks across to me and I was like, so Monica, how was it for you? She said, I think your test is shit. It's wrong. I'm an eagle. I'm not an eagle. You need to redo this whole thing. I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting that.
That's
Um, but for whatever reason at that moment, I wasn't offended or hurt. I just asked, why do you think that? And can I ask you a couple questions to see if I can create some better context? And
proper
I asked
Chris
her how she grew
Jarvis.
up.
That is proper
Yeah, I
Chris
asked her
Jarvis.
I asked her how did you grow up? I said, did you grow up rich? She said, no, I grew up first generation, came over from Mexico. I asked her if she had a really nice house. She said, no, we had a double wide trailer with 7 people living in it. And then I asked, when was the last time you spent a lot of money on a luxury item you didn't need? And she said, never. And then I asked, how often do you spend money on anything without considering what else you could spend that money on? And she said, the next time I buy something without thinking about what that money represents will be the first. And then I stopped and asked, okay, so what if you being an eagle doesn't mean money's the most important thing to you, but rather being an eagle means that money is the dominant voice in your head that always chimes in more loudly than any other voice in your head? And she said, oh, I buy that.
Mm,
And I rewrote the whole test. I didn't rewrite the questions. I didn't rewrite the algorithm. I rewrote how we explain it. And so your high score is the thing that's always in your head. If you're a penguin and that represents relationships, your natural tendency is to ask yourself, how is this going to affect the people around me?
mm,
How is it going to affect how they feel? How is it going to affect how they think about me? Right. So
mm,
someone who's a penguin is highly unlikely to go work in a multi-level marketing situation. Like, that's where they have to recruit their friends to buy things or do
yeah,
things. Like, that's a really
that'd be challenging.
unlikely outcome.
Mhm.
Really unlikely outcome. Um, And then the low score, and I'll get to your question in a second, is the low score is when push comes to shove and you don't have a lot of time, which for the most part, whether it's because we're really busy or we waste a lot of time, it doesn't matter why. But when we don't have time, the low score isn't the thing that you don't care much about. It's the first thing you'll sacrifice. So if money's the last thing, it's like you'll give money to people just to, make them feel okay and not hurt. You'll pay to get rid of conflict. Or in my case, what it was for most of my career was it was me. It was fun and health were always at the bottom that I would
Mhm.
sacrifice myself for the good of other people. So, super codependent based on, my parents' situation and then the pain I got used to just letting it all the shit roll downhill to me,
Yeah.
that was a familiar place for a long time. So I would sacrifice myself. And
Yep.
so the question then becomes the things that are at the bottom. My natural tendency, you had talked about, I think you said fun and not fun. You had said career and health, I think, right? At the bottom.
The bottom, yeah.
So, and so for somebody so the big thing with the wow factor is you get the scores, you see where you are, which also helps you measure. If you're a coach or someone or a counselor or you're working with people, you should have your people take this because then you have a quantifiable measure to see whether or not they actually improved. The challenge we have is that the easiest thing to measure is money. How much do you make? How
Right.
much do you have? So it is a natural tendency for a lot of people to sacrifice their health, their relationships, their fun to make money because
Mhm.
the money is graded. It's really hard to grade fun. Like you don't have a meter sitting by it's not one of the loops, the circles on your Apple Watch that you have to fill every day. It doesn't give you feedback.
Yeah.
Um, so because it's not quantifiable, people tend to lead toward the quantifiable things. It's just, again, human nature.
Mm.
And so this idea that we have some scores and we can measure over time helps. But more importantly, when you realize this is the dominant voice in my head, and this is the thing that I normally sacrifice, it it creates context. It gives you some benefit that, for you, if it's your career and your health, the question when you re-listen to this isn't, is Jarvis doing anything that helps for, is he doing anything useful or something that I could mimic? Yeah, of course. Anybody can do anything. None of this stuff is rocket science. The bigger question for Tim is anything Jarvis put out there gonna be useful to me to improve my career or my health?
Mm.
Like that, it's got to be, the question is framed, is this person telling me something that sharing something that I can use to improve the areas of my life that I want to improve? Because you're already naturally doing the things at the high end. You don't need a lot of
Yeah.
help generally in those places. You need help in the other places. And so, for me, um, when I'm coaching businesses, whether it's on improving the people who work for them or improving the customer experience or gaining more customers or doing more with your podcast or doing more with your social media, is, when you have multiple kids in a family, that they're completely different, right? I'm assuming your two boys are wired way differently.
Oh my goodness. They are. Yes.
Okay.
One
Right. So they're the same parents, same upbringing, same genetics, all of that, yet they're completely different people, right?
completely.
So
Yeah. Their
complete.
approach to everything is opposite.
So when you push your 7-year-old to try to do things and you're hard on him to push him to get to the next level and he responds well, how would your other boy respond to that
Maybe
same
not.
stimulus?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So we know at home that our kids need to be handled differently, but then we get into business and we have one website, one newsletter,
Mm.
one post that goes to everybody, one set of incentive programs, one employee handbook. We just expect everybody, we put one thing out there, one set of guidelines and rules and systems, and then we think people suck when they don't follow them. So we have a lesson at home with the people closest to us, but then we assume when it gets to business, we don't need to customize anything.
So right.
Right? Like it's so ludicrous. And when I say it, it seems so obvious. And then, sometimes I'll get the smart ass response of, well, I can't have 200 employee handbooks. And I said, I'm not asking you for 200. What I'm saying is if you took the wild factor, what you would learn about your employees, what you would learn about your friends, what you would learn about your spouse, what you would learn about your partner, what you would learn about your potential customers when you get the wow factor is you learn the dominant voice in their head. So someone whose dominant voice is eagle is always going to look for the ROI, the return on investment that they're going to get from something that you're showing them. For someone who's a dolphin, it's going to be the health. Like, how is that going to improve my life? How is that going to be good for me? Someone who's a penguin is going to ask, what are people going to think about me? Or how is this going to affect the people around me? Which is way different from how it's going to affect me.
Mm,
And then the monkey is, am I going to enjoy this? Right.
mm.
So the lens they're going to look at the message. So my suggestion, I'm talking to a firm later today, is can we please segment the 100,000 customers into which ones are eagles? We're going to hit them with ROI messages just so we can give them the information that they want to make the decision. It's not to manipulate them. It's just giving them information they want. If you give the penguin all ROI information, they're going to be like, oh, it's all about money,
Yep.
which is not what their life is about, right? Like that's all, it's way different. And so just segmenting the message. And then when it comes to inspiring people, if you're trying to be a great place to work and you want to do things for people, if you want to be the ultimate gift giver, look at the low score, not the high score. So for example, if you have a $200,000 wine collection and I buy you a $1,000 bottle of wine, that then yeah, you'll appreciate it because you like wine, but you already buy wine. Like, I'm not doing anything for you that you don't already do for yourself. But if you're not finding time to do things for your health, then maybe I sign up for some hike or kayaking thing or some trip or some outdoor thing, which gets, and invite you to do it because you wouldn't do that for yourself, but you might, because you're a penguin, you want to hang out with me. So you'll do the kayak trip, which is going to cause you to have to work out to do that. Or people send holiday gifts and they send wine or Harry and David pears or chocolates or pastries or some really expensive thing. I'll send to somebody whose fun is their lowest score. I will send the $3 wind up monkey with the symbols.
I love it.
And
Yeah.
that will be the gift. And the note will be, what fun are we going to have? And that's it. And then every call we have, I'll start off with, hey, Tim, what have you done fun since the last time we talked?
Yeah.
And before we get off, I'm going to ask, what fun thing are you going to do before we get together next? Like, what are you going to plan today?
So good.
And what's more important, the $200, bakery gift or the $3 monkey? Which one's more personal? So it's not about the money, it's about the connection and the context and the understanding. So that's a big part of this whole Be the Giraffe with the wild factor, is it's understanding yourself, then and the complexities of that and how you operate. It's really hard not to become more curious about other people and realize, ooh, I do this, what do you do? And so you might find people who have similar highs or similar lows, or I find out that the thing that you're really low at is my high score.
Mm,
So now we talk about, you're struggling with the career side. That's always my top one, or it's usually my top one. So, ooh, how do I make what I do connect to all the other things?
mm.
So there's a lot of curiosity with that. And the purpose for it is awareness. So you can ask the question that, ooh, is this thing I'm going to do, if I'm trying to improve my health and my career, before you make a decision, just stop and ask, is this thing going to actually make my health and career better, worse, or neutral?
Mhm.
And if it's better, it's really easy. If it's neutral, it's really easy. If it's negative, you still may do it because it might just be so important that, okay, well, it's not there, but it is important, but at least I'm aware that I'm making a trade-off here. Everything we do in life is a sacrifice. So people who spend an hour or more listening to our conversation, they could have done a million other things.
Mhm.
So rather than beat yourself up on all the things you didn't do, just embrace the fact that you made an investment in yourself and, you know, in whatever that was. So that's the piece. So for me, the lesson in the 19-page report everybody gets from doing the wow factor, which it's a $20 quiz. I'm sure you'll put the link in the show notes. If we use the code CASTLE, it's free. I'll waive it for everybody who wants to take it. They can have it. I hope they get a lot out of it. Um, the idea of knowing what your natural tendencies are, leverage those. The test has three parts. One is, how do you leverage your strength to improve other areas of your life? The second part is, cautionary tales on knowing this is how you are. Here are some of the traps that you can fall into by just blindly following your natural tendencies and how it might hurt, so you can at least become aware. And then the third part to that 19-page report is, how can I specifically address my lowest score? So it's there to give people some quick, hacks and awareness and just ideas to quickly change their lives. And, for you, if you're a penguin and health is a low score, I mentioned an idea earlier, then you may not get up and go to the gym by yourself, or you may not train for a marathon or a hike or a kayak trip or whatever that thing is, or a run for charity, but you sign your friends up for it. And then you're going to show up to go with them because you don't want to let them down. You're not going to be that guy that plans something and then doesn't show when all your friends are there. So that's an obvious one, right? That just is. So it's stuff like that. It's how do you find ways to hack your natural tendency?
I like it. It's like, how do you use your strength to hit your lower score? Like for career, like, cool, you're a people person. Relationships, go network in the things that can help whatever you're doing accelerate straight away. Don't just do amazing conversations with Chris Jarvis. Like it's yes, you're going to do that anyway. So go do it in a direct, specific part as well, because you're going to enjoy it over there. Man, it's been so good. It's been like, this is the point that it all builds to, right? That this is the elevated perspective, and the giraffe, because it's eating the acacia leaves, it's getting to stuff that other places people can't eat. It's able to go where it wants to go. It can see threats before they come. It can move out the way. It can run in a different way that the lion's like, hey, I don't even know what's going on over there. I don't want to chase that. I think you all look funny to me. I'm cool. I'll go somewhere else. Like it just so good. It's just so good. And I commend you, and I commend this conversation, Chris. Like honestly, like just I knew this would be good, but you've given to me. So thank you, because you've, in the book you've given to me, and then on this conversation you've given to me, and I truly feel that, and that's like, it takes years of pain, and you're shedding. You can do that to me on a podcast, and you could do that to me in your book. I know the tens of thousands of people that have already been impacted by this, that haven't sent you letters, but you just keep going. You know that it's a movement, and it's like we're brothers from the same tribe. If you got like from different tribes, but like it's the same flow. Like that's what this is all about. And that's a wrap. Thank you for sharing and rating this show. It helps us reach more people and spread the message. That message is the believe it as possible message. I want you to believe in you, believe in the situation, and believe in your bigger life. That's why I created the School of Success. It's a selection of short courses that can help boost your skill acquisition in negotiation, sales, and self-transformation. This is where it's at, and I want you to win. I want you to build your empire, the empire of you, and become more. So if you're looking to know how to deal with difficult people, to negotiate at an expert level, to sell, and to become more yourself, to develop your mindset, your confidence, to be able to then think about how to elevate your business, this might be for you. So head on over to the School of Success and look at the links in the show notes, and get on over there and check out the short courses that we have for you.